Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. Today we're back with an Ezreal updated complete guide for patch 3.3 and above. So now, this is going to be the first updated complete guide I'm making for patch 3.3. And we're not actually going to be doing all that much. So basically, the only updated complete guides we're going to be making are those for champions who used to take Conqueror, but in my opinion, Conqueror on ADCs aren't really very good anymore, and I'm kind of testing which runes work for which ADCs. But basically, you guys will be looking forward to, of course, Ezreal himself later on in this video. There's going to be like an MF updated complete guide coming in a couple of days' time. Then I'm also working on Corki and Draven as well. So probably there's only going to be these four updated complete guides. The rest will probably be the same. In a sense that their runes don't really change, but of course every ADC now basically takes the boots of Furor, except maybe Varus and Corki because of their range. But anyways, enough talk about all of that. We're going to talk about Ezreal himself. So of course, as usual, being an updated complete guide, I'll refer you guys to the original complete guide for the skills and leveling order so that we don't have to waste time, and instead we can jump immediately into the build, runes and spells itself. So we're gonna first briefly discuss the build. So of course we're gonna go for the mana mune. Firstly, of course, for the mana as well as the unhit, which will allow you to do extra damage on your Q when it evolves into the mirror mana. Then we go for the Triforce, basically because the spell blade can be propped by your Q as well. So basically when you get your first two items, your Q is going to be hurting like a truck, and even more with the Kraken Slayer, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. But here you get ability haste, you get attack speed, attack damage, health, and of course the Spellblade passive, as well as the rage passive. So something that I do want to point out is that if you go for Triforce, which you don't actually go for every single time, you don't actually want to go for Boots of Furor. Now the reason for that is that the rage passive on Triforce does not stack with the rage passive on Boots of Furor. So I have Boots of Furor on the default slot because I used to have I think it was Frozen Gauntlet or something here. But yeah, so what boots you want to go for if you go for Triforce? You probably want to go for either the defensive boots or the lucidity boots, because Ezreal doesn't really need the Gluttonous Greaves because you will be building Blade of the Rune King later on. So basically you get either the lucidity boots or you get the plated steel caps or merc treads for the defensive boots. Now I'm going to briefly discuss the enchant. Basically on Ezreal, the only viable enchant is Stasis. Now why is Stasis the only viable enchant? You don't need Locket because you already have your E. Quicksilver, you only build that when you really need it in a match. If in a match with a lot of CC, you can build the Quicksilver, but generally because of Ezreal's safety, you generally don't really need the Quicksilver anyways. The Repulsor enchant is not really good, as I expected and predicted in the patch notes. So basically, you build like Stasis 99% of the time, just for the extra 2.5 seconds of invulnerability if you get caught out. And then after you move on to this Seralda's Grudge, which mainly you get for the slow, which of course procs on all of your abilities, mainly when you're spamming Q. You do also get the armor penetration as well as, you know, the stats, which is also very helpful. And then you get the Blade of the Rune King, you get the Vamp attack speed, the attack damage, and of course the Drain passive as well as the Ruin Strikes. Of course, really good item on Ezreal. Mainly you get this honestly for the Vamp as well as the Drain on enemies to kind of run them down together with the Seralda's Grudge. And finally you top it off with a Guardian Angel, of course, for the revive. Now if your Guardian Angel is down, you can get other items. For example, you can get the Maw of Malmortius. Where is it? Here it is. You can get the Maw of Malmortius on Ezreal to in matches where there's a lot of magic defense. But honestly, in my opinion, Ezreal does not really have too many good itemization options aside from what you already are building. So next up, Triforce can actually be replaced with two items. So first up, the first item you can replace it with is the Divine Sunderer. So here is the Divine Sunderer build. Basically what you're trading for, you're trading the attack speed, mainly you're trading like the attack speed for the kind of anti-tank capabilities as well as the healing on the Divine Sunder, which of course is reduced since Ezreal is a ranged champion. But in certain matchups where against a very tanky team with like a lot of fighters or tanks, and you are picking Ezreal mostly because of the safety, you probably want to go for the Divine Sunder because it's probably going to let you do more damage overall than the Triforce. But default, you always go for the Triforce. And finally, the other item you can go for is the Iceborne Gauntlet. So what the Iceborne Gauntlet does is, of course, it gives you armor, and it also gives you that slowing field whenever you hit your Q. So when you go for Iceborne Gauntlet, you basically only ever go for Iceborne Gauntlet when you're into like a full like AD team where you want to get the tankiness and the armor as well as the slows. And most of the time when you're against a full AD team, likely is that they're really kiteable as well. So the Iceborne Gauntlet slow with the Serelda's Grudge slow together is going to be huge trouble for the enemy team to catch up to you. So that's when you go for the Iceborne Gauntlet build. But yet again, the default build is going to be the Triforce build. So next up, we can discuss the runes, where there have been, of course, a couple of changes. So first up, probably the best rune on Ezreal right now is going to be the Kraken Slayer, because Kraken Slayer now procs on hit effects, which means that Ezreal's Q procs Kraken Slayer. So if you auto Q you can proc Kraken Slayer. Now, the other viable rune that Ezreal has is pretty much going to be Airy. So basically, Airy is going to help you with your poke a little bit whenever you hit your Q and your Aries up. But honestly, overall, I feel that Kraken Slayer is better. Even though I don't really like Kraken Slayer too much as a rune, but Kraken Slayer is better because likely in the later stages of the game, the damage you get from Kraken Slayer, number one, is true damage, and number two, you can proc it really often when you are spamming your Qs and auto attacks in a huge team fight. So likely you can proc Kraken Slayer a lot more compared to what Airy can give you. So I think Kraken Slayer is better overall. So for the domination rune, you go for Hunter Vampirism, of course, for the healing and the lifesteal. You technically could also go for something like Triumph if you do want that. Or you could even go for Champion, because Ezreal is a really safe champion and you don't really die all that much. At least you shouldn't. But personally, I do like the Hunter Vampirism to start getting a little bit of lifesteal, because you don't really have a lifesteal until you get the Blade of the Rune King, which is sometimes a long ways away. Now for the middle rune, you either go for Hunter Titan, or you could also go for Nullifying Orb. Now Nullifying Orb is a really strong rune at the moment, and of course Hunter Titan, if there's a lot of CC on the enemy team, both runes sort of work depending on how much CC there is and who is your lane opponent, that kind of thing. I don't like defaulting to Nullifying Orb, but I like to see like who I'm up against. Basically, I like taking Nullifying Orb when I either have a very bad lane matchup or a very good lane matchup. If it's kind of an even lane matchup, I generally like to go for Hunter Titan. And lastly, you go for Nimbus Cloak, really because you don't really benefit all that much from the other runes. Now, you don't really need the Mana Flow ban because you already have the Mana Mune, and you don't really need Hunter Genius because you already have so much ability haste. You see, you got ability haste from here, ability haste from here, ability haste from here. You know, you're already building so much ability haste. You don't really need more ability haste from your runes anymore. So I think this is actually the best rune setup for Ezreal. And lastly, for the spells, obviously you go for Flash and Exhaust. Don't think I really need to explain the Exhaust and Flash at this point anymore. It's kind of been the meta for like a couple of months now. So if all that out of the way, we can jump into the gameplay itself. Alrighty, so here we have the gameplay itself. Now first up, apologies if the volume suddenly got louder. I believe I turned my mic away from me when I was recording the first section of the video, and I turned it back towards me now. So if it's a little bit louder and you weren't expecting it, apologies for that. But before we actually jump into the gameplay explanation itself, don't forget to, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. As usual, any questions, queries, leave them in the comments below, and I will be addressing them. So we have the new Kraken Slayer Ezreal. Now really, you're only taking Kraken Slayer because you don't really have any other choice. It's pretty much your best option out of all of the options you have. The Conqueror nerf is pretty sad for basically more than half of the champions in the Wild Rift, I believe, because Conqueror is such an OP rune that basically everybody was just taking Conqueror. Even like, you know, Katarinas and Orianas that don't really generally take Conqueror. Even they take Conqueror, like you know, everybody takes Conqueror. Kha'Zix, Rengar, Evelynn, even Assassins take Conqueror just because of how strong it is. But Conqueror meta is gone. Now we are onto like ADCs taking Lethal Tempo and Kraken Slayer mostly. So Of course, Ezreal can't really take lethal tempo. He's not an auto attacker. He's a spellcaster. So Kraken Slayer or AoE will definitely be better for Ezreal. And the only minor issue with that is that in lane you're gonna have to be able to proc your Conqueror consistently. Now, of course, not proc your Conqueror, proc your Kraken Slayer. Of course, the fact that you stack your Conqueror up to 5 stacks anyway means that it's gonna not be too hard to get the Kraken Slayer proc. Now here Jarvan comes in and IE away. Now this is a tip that I actually want to show you guys for a long time, but I rarely get the opportunity. Now, if you're about to get hit by CC and you E with Ezreal before you get hit by the CC, for example, a Blitzcrank hook, Ezreal can actually counter that CC. So if you guys saw, I was still knocked up, but I was knocked up at my new location and not the location that Jarvan actually knocked me up at. Now, speaking of Jarvan, he's on the invade, but literally my whole team is collapsing on him. He flashes over the wall. And here I shift overload to try to help Nami, but Nami gets caught out. But instead we catch the Jarvan out, so we do get the kill onto the Jarvan. Overall, a trade for jungle for support. So overall, I would still say that that is quite a worth trade. But yeah, back to my point on how Ezreal's E works. If you get hit by a CC and you E in time, you will get CC'd at your new location and not your old location. So the CC doesn't cancel your E. For example, if you're about to get hit by a Nami bubble and you E in time, you will get stunned at your new location. Same goes with a Rakan knockup. If you E out of the Rakan knockup in time, but the CC still goes through, you will actually get CC at your new location and not your old location. So this is how you can cancel something like a Blitzcrank hook. Like if Blitzcrank actually hooks you and you E right before the hook hits, you actually won't get pulled in by the Blitzcrank. Now, I'm sure that a lot of Ezreal mains would know this already, but I know that there are probably a lot of Ezreal players out there who don't actually know your E can cancel CC. So if you want to like check it out again, you can always rewind to that point in the video where Jarvan EQ'd onto me, and you can actually see how my E actually cancelled his CC, or rather cancel isn't really the word, but kind of like you reposition the CC to a safer location where you can't really get caught out as easily. So of course, Ezreal on your first bank, you always go for the Tear and the Sheen, unless you can complete your entire mana mean, but since we can't, you always go for the Tear and the Sheen, of course starting out the game with a longsword. So we got the optimal back of the Tear and the Sheen, and now we're back in lane, of course just simply clearing minions. So in this matchup, I picked Ezreal because I wanted, of course, the safety, which is generally the main reason why you pick Ezreal. You can jump away from the Rakan knockup or charm. You can jump out of the Jarvan cage, or rather not the cage, the cataclysm. And you can also jump away from Darius if he tries to engage onto you, especially because Darius normally goes for something like a Proto Belt. So you will actually see that later as well. And technically you can also jump away from Orianna's ball, but that's not really as big of a deal in my opinion. So here, we're of course in the lane matchup, we're against a Caitlyn and a Rakan, so there really isn't too much we can do because Caitlyn has really long range. So it's really tough to poke out the Caitlyn because she doesn't really have to step up very far to get CS, so it's really hard to actually hit the Caitlyn. And same goes for the Rakan, because if we try to go for the Rakan, he can engage onto us. Jarvan is here and Ahri is hiding in the bush. Here we shift over to go onto the Jarvan. Rakan comes in and we snipe out the Jarvan with our ultimate as he was walking through the choke point, and we do get the kill on that. We force out the Caitlyn flash. Rakan is put to 1 HP and he dies to Ahri. So overall, really nice roam by Ahri to catch out everybody. Jarvan still died with both subs up. And here in comes Orianna. I shift immediately away from the Orianna ball because we know that she's going to shockwave. And Orianna actually barely survives the Q there because she actually managed to activate her E to get herself the shield. If not, she would have died there. But either way, this should be a relatively free dragon. I say that, but Jarvan comes in and tries to go for the steal. We zone him away and he ults into 4 people. Builds G as his first item, so he does get the revive. But either way, he did shift into 4 people. I get the kill on Caitlyn and immediately flash out so that I don't get hit by Rakan's W. Now, I've got to say that in this matchup, it's surprising how much CC I really managed to dodge with my flash and my E. Like, we already dodged like the Rakan W there. We dodged the Jarvan flag and drag combo at the start, and you will see later on in the match we dodge a lot more other things, and we also dodged the Orianna ult. So we've already dodged like Orianna, Jarvan, as well as like a Rakan. We were going to be dodging the Darius later in the matches as well, and we really do a lot of dodging. It's quite surprising. Generally, you pick Ezreal for the safety, yes, but you don't really end up dodging too many things most matches. Anyways, you normally use your E to reposition to further behind, not necessarily to like really dodge particular spells of the enemy, but it's kind of surprising that we actually do end up dodging quite a lot of stuff with Ezreal's E in this match, which of course makes for a lot of a better video to show you how good Ezreal is at kind of dodging stuff, I guess. But at the same time, I don't generally want to find myself in these sort of situations. So anyways, back into the gameplay discussion. So we have already secured the first dragon. Of course, dragon stacking really important in the latest patch. Rift Herald is up, of course. So here I'm coming over to see if I can contest. Normally I stay in the lane and Nami, the support will be the one that comes down. But in this case, Nami stayed in the lane, so I'm here to help to contest the Herald. I managed to chunk out the Rakan, but Ahri kind of goes in a little bit too deep and ends up dying. In the meantime, Darius kills the Lee Sin, and obviously I can't contest the Herald myself, or rather I can't like steal the Herald myself. Technically I could if I like shifted over the wall, but I would die for the Herald, even assuming that I steal it, but I don't know if I even would get it. So anyways, Caitlyn and Nami sort of trading one-on-one, and Nami kind of winning out on that trade. Caitlyn pretty chunked, does have to go all the way back to get her fruit, and I'm back in the top lane. So in comes Rakan. I shift away from his knockup. As you can see, yet another dodge. Kind of the whole point of Ezreal's E there, really. So you got to have kind of fast reaction times on Ezreal to dodge out all of the different stuff coming your way, all different spells coming your way. So anyways, here nothing too much is going on. The kind of the laning phase is kind of over already. Here I spot Rakan again, and I dodge his W yet again, and here in comes Jarvan. So now immediately I realize that this tower is pretty much going to be gone because there's 3 of them there and they can dive us. So here I'm instantly walking away, and Nami sticks around for just a little bit too long and does pay for it with her life. Here I'm kiting out the Rakan. Rakan can no longer really pursue me, so here I'm just getting damage on to the Jarvan for free, because of course I outranged Jarvan and Rakan by a whole lot, and Caitlyn isn't really there to really do any damage to me. She's kind of busy just clearing the minions instead. So I do get a lot of free damage onto Rakan and Jarvan, but unfortunately no kills come through on that exchange, at least on my side. So here I do actually just clear out the minion wave, and yeah, it's pretty much it. I'm 3-0-1 now. I'm still pretty strong. Here, Jarvan gets caught up by Lee Sin. I managed to snipe him out with my ultimate, but his GA has come back up again. So here, we still managed to catch him out, of course, with the help of the Nami bubble, which was monumental in actually getting that pick, because he still had flash, and he could have actually flashed the wall there had he not been hit by the bubble itself. Alright, so now we're just going to reset. We got ourselves the Triforce, but we don't have the Mirror Mana evolved yet. So we still got the base Mana Mune, so we gotta wait for that evolve. Generally, Ezreal's strongest point in the game is when you got the evolved Mana Mune, you get your Sheen item, which in this case is my Triforce, and you get the Serelda's Grudge. But so, of course, we're really far away from getting the Serelda's Grudge, nowhere really near yet. But we're going to be getting to there, and of course at 2 items you are still really strong as well. Now, next dragon is of course coming out, and is the Mountain Dragon. Now, Mountain Dragon, after patch 3.3, actually has become important because it doesn't give you the shield anymore, it actually gives you defenses. And really, defenses are going to be important on everybody, whether you're an ADC or whether you're a tank. Defenses are good for everybody. So here, I'm trying to get Prio in the top lane. Of course, mid lane Prio, kind of impossible to get with a Herald barreling down towards us. So of course I'm going to be joining my team. I can see Darius walking up towards me, so I'm not going through the tri-bush because he might be there waiting for me. Dragon has of course now spawned, and you can see the entire enemy team is collapsing onto the dragon. The Rift Scuttle despawns right as that happens. Jarvan comes over, which I managed to dodge his EQ again. We do manage to secure the mid tower, and the team gets split up by the Nami ultimate, the team being the enemy team. So here I get trapped in the Jarvan ultimate. I flash over, and I was actually going for the Caitlyn, but I missed a point blank Q and end up going for the Jarvan instead. Here I try to snipe out the Jarvan, who I thought walked through that side of the jungle, but turns out he walked to the bottom side, for some reason. I'm not too sure what that pathing was, but either way we get another free dragon. So basically if you get one dragon it really isn't so bad, but when you get like 2 or 3 it kind of starts hurting because of the way the stacking works. Like when you get 2 dragons everything doubles. Not really doubles, but gets increased by a whole lot, and you really start kind of feeling the effects of the dragon stacking. So I really think getting like triple dragon is a really strong win condition. And in the meantime, Lee Sin actually manages to pick up the Rift Herald as well, but they are on the chase, they being the Darius and the Rakan, as well as the Jarvan. So here I'm trying to kite them out, which we do manage to do. Darius gets hit by the bubble and he dies. Rakan tries to ult in, but doesn't quite work out. I get an ult across the entire enemy team, as well as getting some damage onto the Rakan, but I do step in the Caitlyn trap, which puts a stop to my advances. Either way, my team is not really healthy and ready to help me out, so it would be dangerous for me to advance any further anyway. So instead, we're just going to back off and see if we can possibly defend this mid lane. We do manage to clear out that cannon. But they do have another wave that's coming in. Fortunately, here I have Lee Sin, who's going to help me actually clear out this wave, so we can actually save our mid lane tier 1, which of course is a very important tower in the grand scheme of things. So now we of course have already gotten the stasis completed, and now we're of course going to be building toward our Sorela's Grudge. So here both Rift Heralds are already gone, so obviously that means the next thing that's spawning is going to be the Baron. Of course, Baron is normally not the objective you go for the instant it spawns. It's just sort of something you got to play around and be sure to not give to the enemy like unknowingly. Like for example, everybody goes top lane and the enemy team just takes the Baron for free. Or you know, if you all do a reckless engage and die, the enemy team gets the Baron for free, that kind of thing. So here is where I dodge out the Darius. Here you guys can see I'm just trying to poke him out, maintaining maximum distance. Here he protobelts forward to hook, and I instantly E away the moment I saw the protobelt, and as a result I don't get caught. So pretty much at this point I've actually managed to E away from everything possible that I can E away from. The Orianna Ball, the Rakan jump multiple times, the Jarvan Cage, the Jarvan EQ, and also the Darius hook. So basically I've eat away from everything it's possible to E away from in this match, at least once for each of them. And it's kind of insane. I didn't actually really realize that until I'm commentating over this gameplay. But yeah, we did a whole lot of dodging in this match. So here, there's some shenanigans happening at the top lane. Lee Sin dies, they're on the chase with Jax, so I'm going to rotate over and see if I can help out my team. Turns out into a kind of huge skirmish. We managed to pop the GA of the Jarvan again. That early GA is really annoying because of how many times it's coming up. I get hit by the Rakan knockup. I'm going to E out of the Jarvan, sorry not E, going to flash out of the Jarvan Cataclysm because I don't have my E up. So here again, I'm going to dodge the Rakan W, not by E this time, just by walking away. And I managed to block Caitlyn ultimate so that Nami doesn't die. Now at this point, it's pretty obvious that that fight is really risky. I'm not too confident if we win it or not. So instead, I'm just going to pick up the Scuttle Crab. I was going to think of backing there, but I realized that there is double cannon in the mid lane. And if I just leave it, the cannon minions could probably do significant damage to the mid lane tower, and even with someone around, like Orianna just showed up, she would have gotten the mid lane tower for free, so I don't want that to happen. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just clear out the wave. And here Lee Sin goes in on Orianna and trying to help him out by launching an ult from downtown. But he finds himself like pretty much in a 3v1. Darius is on the way as well. You can see him through the Scuttle Crab vision on the river. So we're going to have to run away. Fortunately for Nami, she gets hooked by Darius, gets chain CC'd with a knockup from Rakan, and she dies instantly. So me and Lee Sin do manage to actually get away. And I do manage to lose the mid lane tier 1, but in this case really not anything I could do to protect the mid lane tier 1. So it is what it is. So instead now we're going to back. We do get our Sorela's Grudge. So at this point it's probably Ezreal's strongest item power spike. Got the Evolved Manamune, we got the Triforce, and we got the Sorela's Grudge. So what else do we need? We need to get ourselves the red buff. So we're going to get the red buff for ourselves. Of course the final dragon, the Infernal Dragon, is spawning already, so I'm going to quickly get my hands on the red buff and quickly rotate over to the dragon. You can see that Lee Sin and Jarvan are already in the area. The enemy bot lane gets caught out actually. Caitlyn flashes and I'm going to try to snipe them out with my ultimate. They do get the pick onto the Caitlyn before the actual dragon fight, which is huge. Because Caitlyn is of course the main DPS for the enemy team. Popping the plant of course, but Jarvan can EQ over the wall pretty easily. And here he comes. So EQ over the wall. Lee Sin actually manages to secure the dragon, and we have all 3 dragons. And we are also able to shift over the wall to get the double kill onto the Orianna. Now actually, the best way to go about business there was actually to wait for Jarvan's flag to expire before continuing to aggro the dragon. But of course in solo queue, it's really difficult to coordinate that. So really, really impossible to do that. So here I'm picking for the Baron. Because it's pretty much free. The 4 enemy team members are dead. Jarvan and Orianna still have a long ways to go to revive. The enemy bot lane has revived already, but it shouldn't really be too much of an issue. We should be able to burst down the Baron by the time they reach here, if they are even coming here to contest, which it doesn't appear to be the case. Darius, however, does spot out what's happening. Too little too late. We do get the Baron, we can recall and build towards our Blade of the Rune King. And here I'm going to hit over to top lane to clear out the wave. So aside from using your ultimate to just like finish off people or to cross map snipe somebody, you can also use the ultimate to clear the wave if you really need to, something like that. Because Ezreal has horrible wave clear, and really the only wave clear spell you have is your ultimate. It's really kind of a waste to use your ultimate on the minions unless you really need to. Normally that's in desperate times when the enemy team is like pushing in onto a tower and trying to save it, but in this case I'm just trying to push the wave as fast as possible so that we can have multiple Baron waves on multiple lanes to push with, so I can sync up the waves. You can see that my wave is just passing the river, and so is the mid lane wave, so I'm trying to just kind of sync up the waves and just, you know, put more pressure on the enemy team. In the meantime, in bot lane, Lee Sin picks up a double kill. We're about to pick up the kill onto this Jarvan. There we go, kill onto the Jarvan. We get the tower as well. They're onto the bot lane inhibitor, and we're onto the top lane inhibitor. Quite strange that mid kind of got ignored, which normally is not the case. Anyways, we're going to get the top lane inhibitor. Only Orianna's left alive. We do have the triple dragon and the Baron. Really hard for Orianna to really defend, and we do get the win eventually. So, I'll leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.